before we get into this agenda, which is pretty packed, before I go over what our evening's going to look like, I wanted to turn it over to Orange County Legislator Kevin Darian Lujan, who's just going to start us off and give us the lowdown of where we're at and get us set for the night.
Thank you so much, Emily. So first off, I just want to say it's so exciting to have everybody here. This is the coalition that we have built over the last couple of years. And right now we are at the forefront of that fight that we've all been looking for, knowing that was going to be on the forefront, right? So, tonight, we wanted to take the opportunity to hear from all of you, to talk a little bit about what's going to happen. Look, we've seen the reaction across the Hudson Valley. We've seen as members have come out and spoken at different town halls. We've seen as people have marched in the streets, and now we're going to be able to really let people know that, for the governor to know exactly how we feel about this. If he hasn't heard it already, he's definitely going to hear it now. And so tonight is just a matter of trying to make sure that everybody understands how important this is, and I know all of you do. And so, this is going to impact so many communities, but particularly communities like my home here in the city of Newburgh. And so we want to make it very clear that environmental justice communities, we matter, right? This is such an important issue for so many individuals. And so I'm just so glad that to see so many of you here tonight. And, again, this has been a long time coming. I know that many of you, are just getting out of work. I know many of you have probably had 50 meetings today, but guess what? This is the most important meeting of tonight, because tonight we're rallying everybody up. We're rallying the troops for the big fight that's ahead. And so I'm just really glad to be here with all of you. And I'm going to take it back to Emily.
Thank you so much, Kevin Darian. Great. Kevin Darian Lujan, he's been such a courageous leader on this. It's not exactly easy to stand up to the fossil fuel industry, and we are so grateful for the folks that have been willing to speak out and stand up for the health and safety of their community. So we have a pretty packed agenda. Like I said, we're going to start with a brief. Here we are in the welcome part, but we're waiting on Chief Vincent Mann, who may have joined.
Yep, he has, and I will be making him co-host so he can unmute himself.
Terrific. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Vincent Mann, with a First Nation acknowledgement of Danskammer and the significance of this region and this issue to really center us in this moment as we begin our program tonight.
Anishik, thank you. Ninja Shinzi, Kikai Man, Nunjiai Lamopo, Sipu Lamopo Wanjikil, Lamopo Lenapawak, Anishik Kishalamoquang, Elimilian Yonquai Kishquik, Wakukana Aki, Wak Tinda, Wak Umbi, Wakilongo Mati, Wak Nimbu Mausawakanum. Anishik. How's everybody doing? My name is Chief Mann. I'm the Turtle Clan Chief of the Ramapo Lenape Nation. I'm from the Ramapo Mountains, Ramapo River, and the Munsee-speaking people, which includes, as we all know, the place called Danskammer Point. Thank you, Creator, for giving us this day, our Mother Earth, the fire and the water. We thank you for all of our relations, and most importantly, we thank you for our lives. And I thank the four directions. You have to excuse my little lisp. I got new teeth, so thanks for bearing with me. The importance of all this land, all of our nature, is that we are but just one little piece, right? One little piece that makes our natural world whole. And for the last 500 years, we've seen our way of life go by the wayside. And we've seen, the distancing of human beings from the natural environment, everything from understanding the significance of a particular place, the significance of clean clean rivers and clean, streams that provide us with the life that we all need and require. And there will be a day that comes that we as human beings will truly understand that, when the power is turned off, right? And we'll have to go back to relying on one another and relying on our communities to stand up and to stand together for protection, for survival. We'll understand that. Danskammer, Point is just one of the most significant places for our ancestors. We know of all the Esopus Wars that took place. We know that there was the Nicholas Treaty, which I actually renew every year with Ulster County, right? And the significance of that, being able to remember what our ancestors both agreed on, that we would, be in peace, and walk this place in that way and to protect these sacred places. So I apologize for not being more active because there's a lot of fires that we have to put out. So as we move forward, we will be seeing more and more of the indigenous people beginning to stand up to tell the governor, who's actually, his family is related to the Ramapo Lenape people. The Cuomo family name runs through our tribal nation as well. So just a little bit of good information for you all.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that, let me go over the agenda really quick for the rest of the evening. We're going to get an update on the Danskammer application and the legal status, a short 3-minute film going over the issue, and then some input from community leaders, and we'll transition into our training on how to register, as well as what speaking out on March 31st really looks like. And then after 8 p.m., we will have optional breakout rooms at the end to ask questions and clarify registration or tech challenges that people might have in smaller groups. So if you can't stay past 8 p.m., you can email me. I'm going to leave my email in the chat that folks can please feel free to shoot me an email with any questions. And with that, right now, we're going to go into the legal piece, but really quick, listen, despite aggressive rhetoric on climate, we know that Governor Cuomo and New York are continuing to be lobbied by the fossil fuel industry, and money continues to flow in to our electeds in favor of building fracking infrastructure. This is in spite of the fact that we've banned fracking in New York, and even just recently in the Delaware River Basin. This is despite the fact that we passed a climate law. So we're mobilizing because we know that even with that rhetoric here in New York, we have to keep fighting because when we fight, we win, and we do have the power to stop the fossil fuel industry. We've done it before. And who is the we? Well, the we is actually just regular people, voters, parents, grandparents, people concerned about their health, the future of this planet. Over the last couple of years, there's been a growing and building massive opposition to this project from regular people. I imagine most of you have done all sorts of things like, send letters and comments to the governor, pass municipal resolutions in your towns and cities and counties even, make calls to Cuomo's office, show up at rallies and pickets, put up lawn signs, leaflet, door knock, whatever it is. I'm sure some of you did one of these things. I'm sure some of you even did multiple things. But all of these little individual actions, they really, really matter. So all of these actions, they're critical. We're so close to stopping this thing, but the application just got deemed complete a month ago. So we have 1 year to stop it, and it's time to bring all of this energy to these hearings. We may not have fossil fuel industry money or power, but we do have people power. It's pretty clear with the 207 people here tonight. So glad to see all of your faces. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Haley Carlock from Scenic Hudson, attorney and political director. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's great to have such an awesome turnout at such a critical moment in the campaign to stop Danskammer. And I am going to share my screen. There we go. Hopefully you can see my screen. Someone let me know if you can't. And as Emily said, I'll be providing a brief update on the legal process, sort of a very general overview of what that process looks like, and then where we are now and what you can expect going forward. I promise to keep it pretty short so you can get to the meat of tonight's presentation, which is really about preparing to deliver public testimony next week on the 31st. So Danskammer is going to be permitted under a New York State law called Public Service Law Article 10. And as the slide says, it's really a one-stop shop for permitting power plants. Any power plant that it does not qualify as being renewable energy that's of any size over 25 megawatts, Danskammer is about 600 megawatts, is permitted wholly through this process. So all other state and local permits are delivered through this Article 10 process or are simply unnecessary for a power plant of this size. So what that means is there's no separate secret review. The environmental review is done as part of Article 10. There are no local permits like site plan approval, those sorts of things do not happen for these projects. And permits that are delegated by the federal government to the state DEC, for example, like an air permit, all of those substantive standards do still need to be met for these plants, but it's all done through Article 10. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to participate when you're able to in this process. This is the only permit, the only place where you can weigh in. And as I mentioned, environmental review is part of it, but it's more than just environmental review. They've got to take an in-depth look at the economic impacts, the impacts on our energy system, impacts of public health, and very importantly, as you'll hear more about later, you have to look at whether the project is consistent with the current New York State energy policy. The entity that makes the decision on whether to grant Danskammer the Article 10 permit to construct and operate is something most people have never heard of, called the New York State Board on Electric Generation, Siting, and the Environment, which is only created through Article 10, and their only job is to look at applications for these large-scale power plants. The members of the Siting Board are 5 state agency commissioners or their designees, and then 2 members of the local host community who are nominated by local elected officials and then ultimately selected by the Speaker of the Assembly and the President of the State Senate. And while that is the body and those are the people that will actually be making the decision, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the governor has a very strong influence over these decisions. He can't wave a magic wand and kind of unilaterally make a decision, but clearly 5 of the 7 members of the Siting Board are appointed by the governor. So he wields enormous influence over this process. This is a handy timeline that I think is really useful in this case because those of you who have been active and paying attention may feel like, wow, we've been in this fight against Danskammer for so long, we must be getting to the finish line, when in fact we're really just out of the starting gate, as Emily said. We are really at the beginning of the formal application phase. Everything that's come before has sort of been general public outreach, scoping, some preliminary work, but now we're in the meat of it. And a decision must be made by the Siting Board within 12 months of that application being deemed complete. So it's really important. We've got a time clock ticking. It can be extended by a couple of months if and only if Danskammer agrees to it, but really we've got 12 months. And one other thing I'll just mention on this slide is that there are sort of 2 parallel parts of this process that are going to be happening over those 12 months. There's the public process, including public comments and public statement hearings, which we'll talk a lot more about. But there's also a formal legal process that includes like trial type hearings and is quite formal. And Scenic Hudson and other members of the coalition, including Sierra Club, Clearwater, Earth Justice, are all participating in that legal proceeding, as well as obviously helping out on the campaign and the grassroots side. So again, Danskammer's application was deemed complete in late February, so we've got a year until the end of next February to stop this plant. That is the time frame that we're working within. The legal process formally kicks off on April 1st. So we'll be diving in sort of full tilt on that after the beginning of April. And I'm just noting here the upcoming dates, which you will hear about again and again and again tonight, but I figured you couldn't hear about them enough, which are the upcoming March 31st public statement hearings. I can't emphasize how important it is for people to speak out. It's great to show up to these events. It's great to show up with your signs at rallies and picket events. Those are all awesome things to do, but possibly the most important thing you can do is to show up and make a statement at those public statement hearings. If you can't make it, or in addition to your verbal statement, you can also submit written comments throughout the entire proceeding. You can email them to the email address there, or you can go on to the website for this case and you can comment directly on there, and you can reference the case number. And I will stop sharing my screen, and I think we may have time for just one or two questions, but I will be around in the chat and can answer questions there. And I know I've got a couple of colleagues from Earth Justice who can also answer legal questions in the chat. So we'll try to get to all of them if we can.
Awesome. So oh, I see we have some different folks in the chat. Who here is Haley? Are you reading off the questions, or do you need my help?
Your help would be great. I can sort through. Sorry, Emily. I thought you were going to throw me a question or two.
I don't think I have access to the Q&A, so I don't see.
Okay, I don't
Haley,
see.
so what the first question here is, what do the legal proceedings entail? How are they different from the public hearing?
Sure, and that's a great question. And so the public hearing is really just an opportunity for anybody. You don't have to be an expert to get up there and simply tell the citing board what you think about Danskammer, why you're concerned about it. The best thing is to be personal about it. That is for everybody to make their voice heard. The legal proceedings are really kind of almost a mini kind of trial. You have to submit evidence and testimony. There's cross-examination. There are strict legal standards, both substantive and procedural, that need to be adhered to. So that's a really important part of the proceeding. But as I said, it's really just as important that members of the public, especially people in the Hudson Valley, simply let the citing board know that they don't want this project. They think it's bad for New York. They think it's bad for the Hudson Valley. They think it's bad for them personally and their family.
Terry, please post your question in the chat. All right, so I think that's it for now as far as Haley answering questions verbally, but if you want to keep posting them in the chat, we can continue to monitor them, and if we don't have time during the event, we can do so in the breakout rooms afterwards. So I think, Emily, we'll move on in the agenda now.
Cool, thanks. Thank you so much, Haley. And with that, let's turn it over to Jess. Jess says 3 minutes. I think we have 3 minutes until the next part. Do we want to answer one more question?
Well, there was also answering how long is the time limit for comments? It's 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, so it just happened. Okay, cool. Yeah, so next we're gonna watch a quick video. It's like a few minutes long. So Jess, take it away.
Please bear with me while I play this stuff, and please let me know if it doesn't sound or look good, and we'll try something else, or we'll skip it.
Cool. And just so everyone knows, we're going to talk about registration in a little bit, and answer any of your questions.
It's all about the money. What about our lives? What about the next generations?
If anyone wants to help with that, we can get that organized.
Right now, we're getting ready to start a protest against Danskammer.
Danskammer is an existing power plant on the Hudson River. It's been around since the 1950s. It runs 2 or 3% of the time at most. And the owner of the plant has proposed to build a new gas-fired power plant immediately next to the old one. Would run nearly all the time. You're going to see greenhouse gas emissions rise 40-fold above what the current plant emits. So the local communities are really going to see an increase in air pollution if this new plant is allowed to go forward.
Stop damn scamming now.
We do not want that kind of legacy for our community members, for our children.
They pollute our water, they pollute our air, and that's the reason why our people are dying.
Newburgh in general has about 5 times the national rate of asthma and still does have one of the highest rates in Orange County of COVID-19.
COVID attacks your respiratory system, so bringing this plant on board is not going to be a great idea.
Environmental racism has been a really big factor here in the city of Newburgh, with 80% of its demographic being considered a minority. It's often one of the cities that's most picked on when it comes to building these sort of facilities.
Our water has been compromised. Now our air is being compromised.
And the people that will suffer are brown and black folks.
Historically, power plants, garbage dumps, water treatment centers, they've all been located in low-income areas and communities of color.
It's not unique here in New York. It's not unique here in the United States.
They feel like this is a community that isn't really going to speak up. It's about time that they start listening to the people that are going to be affected by this.
This exploitation of the most vulnerable is a statement not about the vulnerable. We really should look at who's exploiting.
No peace! No justice! No peace!
And what created the mind that allows that to be okay? Because they know better. They would not put that factory in their neighborhood.
Sean Patrick Maloney, don't be a climate clone.
The Danskammer project is a 20th century project. It's a project that looks backwards to the old way of doing things. If we're going to overcome the climate crisis, if we're going to have healthy, sustainable communities into the future, we need to be looking forward. We need to be looking at the goals of that Climate Act, and we need to be investing in clean, sustainable energy solutions. Danskammer is not a part of that future.
Jess, for being in the back tech world. Thank you. So this is a really important issue, and we're so lucky to have the people power and behind us. I mean, 222 people are here right now just on this Zoom, and there are at least 100 to 200 more that I've already voiced that they'd like to speak at this hearing that weren't able to come to this training. So we just need to make sure that everybody is showing up on March 31st. So I'm going to pass it to a few folks to kind of round this out and highlight some of this a little bit more for us. Starting with Council Member of Newburgh, Anthony Grice, who has been courageously speaking out on this before anyone was. So we really need to emulate that courage on March 31st. So I'll pass it over to him. Why are you in this fight, and why is this so important to you as a representative of the city of Newburgh?
So I just want to take a brief moment to introduce myself because we do have 222 people here. So I'm councilman at large for the city of Newburgh. I'm also a Democratic candidate for Orange County Clerk. And so it absolutely does take political courage. So I want to also thank my other elected colleagues that are on this call. And one of the things, and it was mentioned a few times, one of the things was our asthma rate. We have the highest asthma rate here in the city of Newburgh throughout the entire state. And so when we think about where Danskammer is, of course, it's not going to be here in the city of Newburgh. It's going to be right there in the town of Newburgh, but right on the Hudson River. And those winds, if you know anything about our climate zone, we're in the Hudson Valley. Those winds travel right down this way. And the air doesn't just stay in one place. And so with the highest asthma rate, now we're talking about polluting our air even more. So that issue is very important to me. One of the things that Danskammer did try to do, and I think it was unsuccessful, was the promise of jobs also. We have a 7.5 unemployment rate here in the city of Newburgh, but those 430 temporary labor jobs that they were promising, and then the 30 permanent jobs, they weren't ever guaranteed to be for city of Newburgh residents. And then the permanent jobs were actually going to be for those higher tech types of people that will be coming in. And so that promise was nothing. And then if you see their latest application that they put in, once they put in their application, they totally ignored the city of Newburgh. It's not even on their map because we don't have the contaminants, if you will. So one of the things that I'm pushing for, working with some other people throughout the county, is getting some air monitors, at least on the elected officials' houses, so that we could better monitor our air. And so that should be coming soon. But, when you think about the opportunity that the fact that we don't even need another power plant as written in a 2017 report. And then the fact that we can have renewable energy that will also have jobs and will keep our environment cleaner is really the right thing to do. When it comes to stopping Danskammer, there is no middle ground on this. Either you're for it or you're not. There's really nothing, in my opinion, to think about. And so absolutely, I encourage everyone that's on this call to please sign up, even if it's just to say stop Danskammer when you have your comments, to please sign up and do that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Woo! All right. Next, we are going to hear from Beacon City Council member Air Rhodes, who's also been fighting this now for like 3 years, really leading the charge, and going to talk to us a little bit about why this is so important even to folks living across the river. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. So I know all of this can be a bit much, especially for people who are new to this topic. So if you're feeling a little stressed or overwhelmed, it's okay. Just take a deep breath. And I hope that air is clean, because that's really what we're working to ensure. I'm representing the work that I've been doing to represent the whole city of Beacon, and I am on the city council. And I know that half of the city council is here tonight, and really the whole city is behind this work. And it's really exciting to be part of a community that is really supporting resisting Danskammer. And so it's a whole community effort, and we all have to be working together to make sure that this plant doesn't happen. So why is it that a city that's on the other side of the river needs to worry about a power plant that's on the other side of the river? It's 3 miles from where I'm sitting right now. Well, Councilmember Grice mentioned those wind patterns. We're on the east side of the river. The power plant's on the west side of the river. Remember all that wind that was blowing last week and the week before? It blows from the west to the east. And so if that power plant gets built, and even just with the power plant that's there right now that just goes some of the time, it blows all of those air pollutants, swirls right down to Newburgh and right across the river to Beacon and to Wappingers Falls and to Fishkill and to the whole sort of Putnam County, Southern Dutchess County, and right across into Western Connecticut, Western Massachusetts. What's crazy is that when the old Danskammer power plant was running, they could register the pollutants as far as Mount Desert Island in Maine. That's how far these wind patterns can go. And so it is imperative that everyone and not just in the northeast of the United States, but everyone in the entire world can be impacted by this power plant. And that might seem like a grand statement, but it's because of the impacts on climate change that this power plant can have. By releasing these pollutants into the atmosphere, it's going to have an impact on global warming, and global warming will impact the entire world's climate. So this little power plant here is going to do bad things for little islands in the Pacific, for people living in Germany, for people living in every little corner of our world. So no matter where you are living in the Hudson Valley, in Philadelphia, in California, or in another country even, this power plant is actually really important to stop. And so I'm really glad to be part of that effort, even 3 miles away. And I hope that every one of you, no matter where you're living, sees that this is an important thing to be doing for your air and for your community and for our entire global future. So thanks for being here, and thanks for doing your part.
Thank you so much, Air. Next, really good transition into introducing Liz Moran, Environmental Policy Director at Newburgh. Newburgh has knocked on hundreds of doors and collected thousands of petitions, held rallies and events, all just to stop this thing. So what is the climate impact of Danskammer? Liz Moran, take it away.
Oh, okay, now I'm unmuted. Okay. I was just checking. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Moran. I'm the Environmental Policy Director for Newburgh. Many of you are already aware, New York State has a landmark climate law called the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, and it sets in statute that New York State has goals to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So from that alone, Danskammer doesn't fit in. We all know this. At this point, I'm preaching to the choir, but it's good to remind New York State that we do have this law. That being said, natural gas leads to major greenhouse gas emissions in the form of methane emissions. So we're familiar with carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is obviously a major greenhouse gas, but methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas. During its 20-year shelf life, it ends up being many times more damaging as a heat-trapping gas over its lifetime than carbon dioxide. The best strategy, of course, to reduce methane emissions is to halt fossil fuel infrastructure on all levels, period. Be it the pipelines, which promote more extraction, compressor stations that vent and leak gas, and storage facilities that pose grave explosion risks. And of course, we can't rely on fossil fuels to continue to power our homes as we transition off of fossil fuels in order to meet New York State's important climate goals. So it is very important to remind New York State that if this plant was to move forward, not only is the plant itself continuing our reliance on fossil fuels, but it's going to lead to more emissions throughout the entire process of extracting natural gas, be it from the well site itself in the poor communities out in Pennsylvania, where fracking is actively taking place, throughout the transportation process, when pipelines can leak and lead to more methane emissions, when there could be spills in the transportation process, and then ultimately to us burning it here in New York. So at the end of the day, by all common senses, it does not make sense for New York State to move forward with the Danskammer power plant. It'll impact us here in New York, in Newburgh, in the community surrounding the plant. It'll impact our climate goals, but it'll also make it harder for the rest of the country to meet the critical climate goals that scientists say we have to meet in order to avert ultimate climate catastrophe.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So next, we are going to, but last but not least, we're going to hear from Mark Sanchez-Parter. You might recognize him from the video that we just played. He is an activist right in the city of Newburgh, raised there, done a lot of door knocking in the city of Newburgh. And I know there are folks here from all over the state, and I think it'd be really helpful for us to know from him why should we be speaking out on March 31st?
Thank you, Emily, and thank you everyone for coming this evening. So my name is Mark Sanchez Potter. I'm a City of Newburgh resident. I have been involved in this fight now for 2.5 years. When we first started knocking on doors and holding rallies in the City of Newburgh, not a lot of people had heard about Danskammer or knew that they wanted to repower. Now it's a hot button issue in the City of Newburgh and in Orange County in general. We've had thousands of people sign petitions. We've had, hundreds of people show up to marches and rallies and to Zoom meetings. We've had multiple resolutions passed throughout the Hudson Valley. So it's really critical now that we continue this fight. And as someone that lives in the City of Newburgh, 4 miles from this plant or 3 miles from this plant, we're an environmental justice community. If this is approved and built, this is a clear example of environmental racism. The City of Newburgh is predominantly black and brown. They would not build a fracked gas power plant in Hartsdale or the Upper West Side. It's always communities of color and indigenous communities that get thrown these pollutative, fossil fuel infrastructure, and we will not stand for it anymore, which is why we're continuing to mobilize against Danskammer. As Liz said, we're in a climate emergency. We have to act like it, and this plan is in contrast with New York State climate law and policy. So I'm going to pass it back to Emily.
Thank you, Mark. All right, so now I'm going to turn it to signing up to testify at the virtual public hearing. Some of you here have probably already done so, but I know that a lot of people haven't, and it is an intentionally confusing and disenfranchising process. So we don't want anyone to miss the opportunity to speak. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt Salton from Clearwater. He's gonna go over the process a little bit with us. So there you go, Matt.
Hi, yeah, I'm Matt Salton. I'm the Hudson River Slope Clearwater. I'm the Environmental Action Associate, and I'm just going to explain really the brass tacks of it. How do you go about registering to make a comment? So first, I just want to specify that it is a two-step process. So the first thing you're going to do is register to make a public comment. You can't just go on either by phone or by the link on the day of and give a comment. You have to register beforehand. The deadline to do so is on the 29th by 5 p.m. Someone asked before why, how they know how many people are doing it. It's because they need a few days to look through them to ensure that they're going to have enough time. There are 2 sessions. It's 1 o'clock on the 31st and it is 6 o'clock on the 31st. These are 4-hour sessions. Typically they will do the 4 hours for the first part, and unless they have a lot of people, they'll do like 3 hours for the 6 p.m. because then you're getting into the 9:30 territory and people want to go to bed. So I will share my screen right now to show you just how to sign up. So the easiest thing you can do is to go into your browser and you're going to type stoptheplant.org. Great. And when you were here, they made it really easy, whoever set up the website. You're just going to click on it, just the picture, and this is going to bring you to this page. And as you can see, it's all the instructions, everything you need to know. Try to make your comments when you do get on under 3 minutes or less because of the amount of people we're hoping to get to this. So right here is the 1 o'clock session, if you'd like to testify at that one. And here is for the 6 o'clock. So let's say I want to do the 6 o'clock. So I'm going to click here and then it brings me to this little link here and I'm going to click on that. And then it brings me to this page. This will be the same page that you will access for when you want to join the event. But because I haven't registered yet, you need to go down here. It's register right here. So you click on that. Great. And then I'm going to fill out the contact information. So Matt Salton, you will be filling out your name now. So And you just fill out all this information. They want to make sure that they want to know where you're from. And given that we're all from the Hudson Valley, it's really important that we do show up and show that it is a regional issue for us. And you want to go down here, and sometimes people can sign up just to listen, but no, you want to make a statement. So you're going to click yes right there, and then you're going to click submit. And now I'm registered for the event. And they will have sent me an email for it. Not yet. Great. And you're going to get an email, and this way you can either click here to join the event, or as I said before, you can either go back on this website at stoptheplant.org, and then when you come down here and you want to just go back here, and this way you just give the password that they gave you in the email, and then you join the event the day of. So it's really easy. If you have any questions, please reach out to any one of us on the call. Emily gave her email, I can give my email. It's really easy, and we just want as many people to do it as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. And did you mention the option to register by phone as well?
I did not. I should though.
That's okay. Yeah, if you want to just quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So here, let me just share one more time. Great. So going back to this page, you'll see that there's also the option to join by phone. And all you're going to do is call this number, again, the same time and day, and you will be giving in the code that we provide on here. And that will ensure that you are registered to do it. So either way you want to do it by phone or by WebEx, it's all on here. And again, if you need to reach out, please do so.
Great, thank you. And Haley just brought up a good point in the chat that if you are an elected official, and you should identify yourself as such when you're registering, and then they'll actually prioritize you to speak. But unfortunately, you might have to wait for quite a while and wait for your name. So that's just something that's just how it goes with these hearings. With that, I am going to pass it on to Shay O'Reilly from Sierra Club. Shay's going to go over what it looks like to speak out. It's really simple, really easy. This is kind of the lowdown. Everything you need to know. Everyone in this room is already qualified to speak.
So I want to start off by saying that you've heard all of us say over and over again that speaking out is the most important thing you can do. And we know this because we've been in the fight for a minute, and many of you know this too. I think a lot of you have probably spoken out at hearings before. Maybe you can drop in the comments if you've had that experience before, because I think that would be pretty cool to see. But it really does matter. So I'm going to talk to you about why and about how to prep for your testimony. You're speaking out. We're trying not to use the word testimony because it's a little intense. All right, so again, the hearings are on the 31st at 1 p.m. or 6 p.m. They are, as you've heard before, they are a mandated part of the permitting process for plants like Danskammer, part of the permitting process for plants. At these hearings, anyone can come and provide comments directly to the state regulators that will be deciding the fate of the project. The siting board will be there. There will be several other people there from the state to take down what people are saying. We can also expect that other people will be joining to listen in and take the temperature of the hearing. I guarantee you that the local media will cover this hearing. They will be joining. There will also be elected officials who, unlike many people on this call, haven't chosen a side yet, who are going to join or send their staff to join to hear what people are saying. So your voice matters not just for these regulators, but also for everybody else who's on that call. Here's what to expect. You're going to hear people speaking against Danskammer. That's our side, right? You will also hear people speaking for Danskammer. There may or may not be some local community members, elected officials, etc. We want to make sure that there are so many more people opposing Danskammer than supporting it to drive home the narrative that we don't want this plan and we don't need it. Elected officials will speak first, so you should expect that. And I want to talk a bit about like how it feels to speak out at one of these hearings if you've never felt it before. I've done this for 5 years now, and every single time I start speaking out at a public hearing, I feel really small and I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I feel like this is not designed for me and my voice. The system is designed that way, right? It's very formal, it's very bureaucratic. You're going to show up, and if you're like me, you might well feel that, you know, do I really know what I'm talking about? And I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter. You have a right to be heard. Your voice matters as somebody from the community that will be harmed by this, as somebody who lives on this planet that's being imperiled by climate change from fossil fuels. Your voice matters. It's okay if you decide that you only want to say, my name is so-and-so and I live in my town and I'm asking you to stop Danskammer and leave it at that. If that's all you can get at, that's fine. But I think that you should feel comfortable telling your story and talking about why you oppose Danskammer. So there are some parts of a good public speech. And I'm going to nail down this too, right? The state has a lot of the data. Our wonderful attorneys at Earth Justice are providing them with a lot of data. They've done their own data and done their own research. This is part of a political process to determine whether or not this plant is allowed to go forward. Politics comes from the people. It's up to us to show that our power is greater than the power of the fossil fuel industry, because that's what the state is looking for. So now to talk about what makes a good public speech. The must-haves. You have to say your name, where you live, and you should start with a clear statement of opposition. This should be the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Then you can think about why you feel the way you do. Think about your own reasons for wanting to act. Why does this matter to you? Who or what are you fighting to protect? What do you fear? I think that video from earlier in this call was so powerful because it really got down to the brass tacks of the injustice, of the feelings and the values involved. Why are you in particular someone who cares about this issue? What drives it home? What makes it personal? Why are you taking 4 hours out of your life to come here and speak out? And then think about what simple facts you can add to bolster your claims. There are talking points in the document that Matt shared. It's on our website at stoptheplant.org. And if you want more information, there's a lot of resources on that website, including previous webinars, stuff like that, all about the harms of fracking, about the public health impacts, everything that you could want to know. But once again, they have a lot of the facts. This is part of the politics of citing this plant. And what matters most is you showing up and saying that you are a New Yorker who does not want this plant. I would recommend writing it down first and practicing. That way, if you have any kind of technological hiccups or anything like that, you can find your place pretty easily and keep going. I often practice in front of a mirror. It's kind of awkward, but so is testifying on a computer. And I think that you're going to do a great job. Honestly, every single one of you. So I believe in you. I think we all believe in you. Everybody should believe in you, and you should believe in yourself. But if you want help, I'm also sharing my contact info here, and I'll drop it in the chat too. I'm always happy to help people workshop their testimony. You can run it by me if it would make you feel comfortable. If you're having a really hard time, like, I know I'm mad about this, but I don't know where to start, reach out to me or to somebody else you know and try to run it by them. We're happy to help.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Shay. So real quick, I think we were going to get a little practice speech, speak out speech from an audience member. What about Eric Wood?
Sure. Thanks, Emily. So testifying in public hearing, as Shay and many others have mentioned, anyone can do it. And you know, I've done a bunch of them, as Alex had mentioned in the chat. It never gets easier. It's nervous, but it's so empowering and so great. I just also mentioning the chat. I just want to note Talia's petition in the chat. If y'all want to post that again, our middle school activist against the Danskammer power plant. Talia's gathering signatures on petition that she's circulating. So please note that and take a minute to do that. But here's my sample testimony. Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this issue. My name's Eric Wood, and I'm a resident of New Paltz, about 20 miles away from the proposed Danskammer site. And I'm a father of two, and I moved to the Hudson Valley about 10 years ago to raise my family because of the natural beauty and healthy environment that the Hudson Valley has to offer. And since I've moved here, I've seen the Cricket Valley gas plant go into operation, the CPV frack gas plant go into operation. Now I'm seeing an application for another frack gas monstrosity be placed here in the Hudson Valley. And the damage that Danskammer will wreak on our community is going to be irreparable. I'm asking you please deny the application of the Danskammer power plant and instead meet New York's energy needs through energy efficiency, renewable energy investments, and it's the smart thing to do. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric and Shay. So next, who here is planning to speak?
I am.
Woo! Can I get some like hand raises? Woo, 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 woo. Awesome. I can see lots of hands wiggling. Yay. Oh, you're raising your hand. That's amazing. Yeah, raise your hand in the participant part. That's perfect. I didn't even think of that. Raise your virtual hands and your real hands. Woo! 39, 40, 41, 40. Oh my God, this is amazing. 47, 48, 49, 50. Wow. Okay. This is really, 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 really cool. And let me just say, all of you are going to be great. And what I ask, once you're registered to speak, once you know what you're going to say, share this with your friends, share with your family, community members, partners, siblings, parents. We need all hands on deck. So the more people that speak, the better. So it is 7:55. We are gonna break into breakout rooms starting at 8 o'clock for anyone that has additional questions about how to register, what to say, whatever you think you need. If you need some extra support, we're here for you after 8 o'clock. Since we have 5 minutes left, you know what I'm gonna ask you to do? Everyone, if you can grab a piece of paper and a pen and just make a quick little stop Danskammer sign, because we're going to take a little picture. I really, really wish that I could be with all of you in person and we could be rallying somewhere. And because we can't, we got to do something virtually. So everybody take a moment, grab your materials. Doesn't have to be a big piece of paper because it's an optical illusion on Zoom anyway. Awesome. All right. And I'll give an extra minute for folks to write. Start holding up your signs. I see so many great signs. Woo. Jordan's got those exclamation points. Yes. All right. Let's see if people are still drawing. We see some people still drawing. All right. It's really hard it gets kind of chaotic when you chant with other people on audio, but you know what? I think it's kind of fun anyway. If people want to unmute themselves, let's do a quick stop Danskammer now. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Stop Danskammer now.
Oh.
Awesome. Keep holding your signs up. I'm taking screenshots. And put in the chat if you're gonna share this. Who are you gonna share this action with? Who are you gonna tell? We need all hands on deck for organizing this. We're also at Food and Water Watch. We're doing phone banking for the next few days to turn out some other folks to call up the thousands of petition signatures that we have from the past couple years. So I'm going to throw that also into the chat. Any other last words from, I'd like to really thank everyone who participated in this, who spoke, and thank all of you for committing to be part of this. We need all of this energy on March 31st. So I am gonna pull up, and we'll be sharing some follow-up stuff for you, extra talking points. I'm putting this link in the chat. If folks can help phone bank, it is so much fun, and I really, really, really recommend it. And that's how we turn people out. It's through calling people up on the phone. So if you can join us, I put the link in the chat there too. Thank you. All right.